So, like many spiritual people that find themselves unable to turn back, like they get far enough along, something happens, you have a couple of experiences, and it's like something's been activated in you. And I joke that the genie doesn't go back in the bottle, but it's more that the passion's been turned on. This quest for more, to learn more, to um, it's like your soul connection got activated, and now it's like, okay, I'm I guess, yeah, we've activated some program. I guess I guess that would be what it is. It would be an ascension program, but an enlightenment program, an empowering program, um, truth seeking program. There's a bunch of different nuances to it, because everything's nuanced, right? Because we're all such unique configurations. But my journey, I've had so many things happen that I wrote down most of them. I'm learning to get better at them, but that are so unusual that I've been told. In fact, I was told one time in a room full of hundreds of people, and I had bought tickets for my daughter and I, and then a friend of mine was coming to see an event there that Cryon, that Lee Carroll was speaking at. And I was putting them in Janelle's stocking, but of course she passed on, the winter solstice, so she didn't make it to Christmas. And anyways, and I'm going to share all those details at some point, because that whole thing in itself is pretty miraculous. That whole experience with Janelle, and she's still continuing to do miraculous things with me. And this might be one of them. I can't tell, and I'm going to tell you the story about this, but I'm going to say I'm holding something that I want to explain. But so in this room that I went to, with Cryon, this woman, so it's Lee Carroll, but this woman, Marilyn Harper, was also presenting, and she channels this council called Adironda. And I don't know if I even connected that I would be seeing her at that time, but I had also, probably months before Janelle passed, I was looking to get her some appointments with some spiritual people, because I was trying to create opportunities for a miracle, so for her to heal. And the crazy thing, Marilyn's phone call where our appointment happened to be on the 20th, and Janelle passed that night of the next morning. So uncanny timing, and Marilyn's brilliant, really beautiful woman, and she didn't even get a chance to talk to Janelle. She, on the phone said to me, "Honey, she's at a doorway right now," and I just was like taken aback, because I was trying to create all these miracles, right? And I wasn't ready to hear that. And she said, "So this is what's going to happen. The council and I are going to stay with her tonight. And if it's divine order, we'll dissolve all the tumors in her body. And if it isn't, we'll transition her." And my brain, because I had been holding space for the miracle, and as a mother, I'm not going to go into fear mode. I was a warrior, and I have friends that couldn't believe the fierceness of me. And again, this is because I was meant to get to this level of my programming. You can't get there if you're not all in. And so that was the gift of Janelle's, well, I don't even know if I want to call it a passing, with her journey, with the way her life ended and wrapped up there. That was a gift. It just wasn't seen that way at the time, right? But anyways, in this room, and they were on stage and they were channeling. And at one point, Marilyn, because she gets up and she channels, and I can't remember who she channels when she's walking around. I think it's Sekhmet, actually. And I love working with Sekhmet, because it's very interesting energy. But anyway, so she had a selenite wand, and she goes, and I wasn't as sensitive to energy as I am now, but she was going up and down the rows, and she was snapping her wand. I know that sounds crazy. It sounds very Harry Potter. And my one friend, who's she's the one that taught me how to do the multidimensional meditations. that's not her world either. So this was a bit too, we'll call it fantastical, whimsical, for her world, because she came at consciousness from more that academic kind of arena, right? So she now she has the woo woo in her, but she never wanted it to be seen. And I should actually, I haven't talked to her in a while, so I'm not sure if she's actually letting it be seen or not yet. But and it doesn't really matter, because her piece in the whole, we all have a piece to play in this, in our reality, and the people that are drawn to her needed to hear and spirituality through her languaging. I did, right? I needed to hear. I think I've mentioned this before, where she was talking about angels. She goes, okay, so the angels are archangels of light. Is everyone okay with that? That kind of thing, right? She was kind of no nonsense about it. And so it got me okay, because I had, I grew up, Christian, but then I went full on atheist because, things just weren't making sense. And oh, my computer might be stalling there. Anyways, so yeah, hopefully my computer didn't do something funky there, but yeah, so she's sitting there, so I'd given her Janelle's ticket, and I asked her if she'd come with us, because I didn't know who else to to give the ticket to. Anyway, so she's sitting beside me, and Marilyn's walking around the room, and she comes right up to me, and she talks to me about there being really old souls, and she goes, "There's some very old souls indeed," and she comes and looks right into my eyes, and anyways, I was pretty excited at the time, because I knew that that's why I was drawn to the Cryon teachings. I knew I was an old soul, and so it validated me. And that's what, our early spiritual journeys, don't judge yourself if you're looking for validation, because, it's really hard. I'm the discerning part of me doesn't want to just take someone else's word for it, right? I really want to experience it. Is this my lived experience? How does this feel to me, right? That sort of thing. So so I needed that, and so I got the validation I needed. And then the next day or 2 days, I think it was the last day we were there, we were in a channeling workshop with her, and she had walked around the room and stood in front of me at one point, and she told me I'd be writing a book about all my experiences. And she said, when you're ready. And she said, one day millions of people will, need to hear what you have to say. And I always joke that I was a scribe in our meditations, because I was writing down all these crazy experiences that we were having, and so they will be shared at some point. But I realize now that it was as much me believing of my worth, that her saying that was giving me permission, because I was late to the party with that whole spiritual community, right? I wasn't part of, I did the whole mainstream kind of, 9 to 5 kind of, well, I was an art dealer, so it wasn't quite 9 to 5, but I had a pretty normal life, right? I wasn't part of the psychic or the medium audience, that kind of thing, right? I just didn't, the woo part just felt too, airy fairy for me, right, at the time, because I just didn't have that consciousness yet. And so anyway, that was a beautiful permission that she'd given me. And I've had so many of them. But anyways, so what I'm here to share today was, I was in my my laundry room, I don't know how many months back. I think it was even before Christmas this year. I think it was probably in November or something like that. I have to look at my notes somewhere. But anyways, and we've renovated this whole house, right? But that room in particular, even the ceiling got taken out and got a new ceiling, new walls, it partitioned off. We painted the whole thing. Oops, sorry, I'm just going to turn my phone on silent. And so that room got a total makeover. And so it had a freezer in it, and it was off the laundry room. There was a barn door, and then the second storage door, and there was a freezer sitting in there, and a bunch of shelves. And I had a bunch of Tupperware bins in the shelves, but not much else, and basically a light in the ceiling. And but it was all new and clean, and not much place for anything to hide, right? Which is interesting. So all painted white. The floors are all basically shades of white. I mean, you can see my house is pretty white, right? And I'm standing in there, and I think I was grabbing something out of the freezer, but all of a sudden I heard ping, and I looked down, and this ring, and I don't know if I can show it to the camera. This ring, oops, okay. I'm sorry, it's not really picking up very well. Um, yeah. Anyways, it fell, and it's copper, and it just fell out of the sky. Well, not the sky, it fell out of the, it just fell into the room. And so anyway, so I went to pick, bent over, picked it up, and I thought, oh, that's really funny. And the pentagram in the middle was kind of interesting. There's that part of me going, oh, okay, was this from one of my witchy lives? Was I, because I've had, and I should give a bit more context too. I've had times where I've been holding my friend has this beautiful crystal skull, and she showed me one time how to rub the eye sockets, and I literally, I don't know where I went, but I felt myself drop back in because I was kind of disoriented when I entered again, and I was off kilter, and it took me a second, and I kind of had to look and reorient myself and go, oh, that's right, I'm in this room. It was, so I knew I'd gone somewhere, and it was quite multidimensional. Anyways, very interesting. And she had said, she was, oh, you went somewhere, you were traveling. And this is all, again, brand new language for Deborah. I was, I was fast tracked. And enough times I had people, and I kept having magical people come into my life. Honestly, it just kept happening over and over, so I couldn't deny it. So there's a version of me that knew I was going to be dropped into this life, and I was going to have all these experiences, and I was going to play in a pretty normal world, so that by the time I got to the other world, I was going to be a good bridge, right? That I was going to be able to use and go, okay, that's going to sound crazy. I have to really find a way to buffer this language here. I mean, I'm doing that a bit. I mean, there is a part of me that kind of just goes, some people can't hear it. That's okay. Maybe they'll find me when they're ready, So I'm really trying hard to kind of go, okay, what is it about my being fast tracked that it serves? It's because I have a really, that memory of those, of my traditional thoughts, those systems in my mind of how the world works, how reality is created, isn't that far gone from me. I didn't grow up as a child in a supernatural world where I didn't have, I wasn't as landed in this reality, because when I'm coding, I have to be able to go into those pathways to expand them and bring the frequencies into this new higher level system, to bridge it, to code it in, to collapse some of those stories, that sort of thing. So yeah, so I think I'm hoping this kind of makes some sense, that I once in a while I'll just kind of circle things around, but anyways, so that's why I do what I do. But when this dropped in, the only thing that I had for reference was, I remember my friend, was the meditator, was talking about, I think it was Sai Baba, I think, and maybe I have to Google it, but I think it was some spiritualist, and I think it was an Eastern kind of mystic, that sort of thing, that used to be able to pull things out of the air. And I realized, well, but I didn't pull it out of the air, so it dropped in. So it was, something was given to me there. So I looked at the 5 stars, and it was quite funny, because I was working with a lot of the elements at that time, and that's really how the elements are represented. And now I think we're shifting into the Star of David, which is that extra element of ether, I think, in there. So I think, I mean, I always reserve the right to be wrong, because I'm still working through my journey too, right? But anyways, but it was copper, and yeah, and I never really thought much of it. And I was, I think I wore it that one day and put, on my pinky finger, and and I thought about it and tried to figure out the message, and then I think I just put it in my drawer and kind of forgot about it, I have to say. And then about 6 months ago, I connected with a friend in London, and she's a beautiful mystic as well. And we were coding together, and I was doing codes for her, and she was doing codes for me. And at one point, she said, my team wanted me to hold some copper rods and, to help with, currency and stuff, because I hold a lot of, I'm going to say I bring in a lot of energy through my grid, and I've expanded my pillar to be able to do that. And for others, right? Because my expanded space gives them an opportunity to expand their fields within that container. So I'm hoping that makes sense. That's how I signed up to do this work that I do. And again, that friend that was doing meditation, she always told me that I was holding space and for the group, and I didn't understand what she was meaning. Now I get what she meant by that. So anyway, so when this fell through, and I kind of put it away and I kind of forgot about it. But then a few days ago, I saw this video and it was a woman. I think I'd seen her she was interviewed on Next Level Soul, but I don't think I watched the interview because I just generally, like everyone, how much time do I have? Oh, do I have time for this one? And I might watch one or two, and I make sure to watch the ones that the people that I'm familiar with and I like, right? Um, so I never watched her. Her name was Carrie. I might have saw something on her once. I can't remember because she wasn't unfamiliar. But I just didn't know her teachings or much. So, anyways, but this her talk got presented to me a few days ago, and she was talking about the metals, and she was talking about copper in particular. And we all know that copper, and I think it's copper and silver or something that purifies water, and copper, rods in your garden help your garden grow. And so we all kind of know the basics, right? But she was talking about at this time on the planet that there was that's what was being activated or worked with or something. Again, I kind of listened to it as I was cooking dinner, so I only got bits of it, but I trusted that showed up for a reason for me. And I went, oh, something about copper there. Okay. And then I remembered, my friend talking about the copper rods. And then for whatever reason, I remembered the elements, and I was thinking about the elements, and I thought, oh, I've got that ring. And I go in, and all of a sudden I'm looking at it, and it's copper. And I held it, in my hand, and I was trying to figure out, what the significance is, what I was meant to do. And I know, I did a talk on the periodic chart before as well. So we all work, and that's what my fingers, the coding and stuff. We all work with those elements in our way. It's just not everyone translates it in an obvious way, but our physicality is translating it. But our minds aren't detecting it. We're not decoding it there. So we're not sure how we're working with these systems. But anyways, so I pulled this out, and I realized one of the big things that I did was I forgot to be so grateful for this. And it's one of those things where when the universe gives you a gift, it could be the smallest little thing. Acknowledge it as a gift, because it doesn't have the same values of, a bag of diamonds or this ring. It doesn't it doesn't go, oh, we know what she'll really like, this whole bag of diamonds over here. Um, you know, we tried with the ring, now let's try something different. It's just gonna energetically go, oh, gifts don't really go over that well. She just puts it in a drawer and forgets about it. So it's like I've energetically kind of denied the gift, right? And so I realized, oh gosh, I have to go back. Not that I need a bag of diamonds, but you know what I'm saying? It would be, well, I'm not denying the bag of diamonds, but what I'm saying is I forgot to really be so thankful for this gift. I'm always thankful for the gifts in nature. I'm thankful for when my heart rocks show up. I'm thankful for, birds and butterflies and dragonflies. Things show up in my natural world. I really get really grateful and thankful. But this is an interesting one because it's a man-made product using metal, right? So there's something symbolic there about me being grateful for maybe man's ability to work with the metals, the alchemist, right? And the fact that it dropped out of the air and it just showed up and bing, at my feet, I was being pinged. Oh, that's an interesting analogy. That just dropped in. So that's funny. Yeah. And the funny thing, so I told my son about it. I was talking to him, I think that night or something, he on FaceTime, and I was telling him, oh, was given this gift, and I thought it was really cute. And he kind of rolls his eyes, and anyways, my family just kind of, they indulge me, and that's all. That's as far as it goes. But they really don't want to hear any of the magical stuff. They don't want to listen to any of the talks I listen to. That they're not on this path. My son gets it more than I give him credit for, though, because he's of the generation where he didn't have the density around understanding it and unpacking it. So he doesn't need to get as excited about me when I learn these new things, because I think for him, he's already kind of playing in a bit more of an unlimited playground. So anyways, I'm just going to put that out there because that's my suspicion with him. He's a pretty magical guy, we'll say. But anyway, so then I think I put this, where did I put it? I think I put it, it was on my computer in another room. But sorry, not on my computer, on my desk near my computer, because that's what I was showing him through. And I think it might have been through the computer, or maybe where I was FaceTiming was on the computer. I can't remember. So anyways, so I put it down. I wasn't wearing it though. I just wanted to say, hey, look what I found, or, whatever. And I showed it to him and I put it down. And the funny thing is, oh no, somehow it made it upstairs. Okay, no, this is what happened. So I put it down on that computer. That's right. Sorry about this, because we're doing a lot of shifting and timeline jumping. So don't, I'm not going to beat myself up over being blurry with details. This is not, and people will go, if you're somebody who really wants to call bullshit on somebody and think that they're lying, that's on you. You have the trust issues, right? Because and maybe you attract people that bullshit too. I don't know, sorry with the language, right? But again, that's on you, because if you're attracted to people and people are lying to you and they're showing you their lies, right? Again, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm only showing you because I need you to not need anybody to do anything. I'm sharing because I want you to feel into the magic of this, so that your mind goes, oh, maybe there's potentials, because Sai Baba doesn't have a YouTube channel. So I would like to have, seen him talk, and how does he do it, and have him talk about it, that kind of thing. So anyway, so I'm sharing because I'm just going to put it in all of our fields, in all of our minds, that these sort of things can happen. So anyway, so the ring went missing. I didn't think anything of it. And about, I don't know, maybe a month later, I'm in the room right above my laundry room. So my office, where my computer was, I've moved it now into a different part of the house, but it was on the far side of my house. The reason I'm not recording these over there, it's a bit echoey in that room. There's more fabric and stuff in this room, so I like the sound better. But anyway, so it was in a different room, and it had gone missing, and then it showed up right above, in the room right above where it had dropped. And I was sitting down, and it was in a bathroom. So I'm in the bathroom, and I can't tell you what I was doing in there. I don't know. I was probably cleaning, though, because where I noticed it was on the floor, at the corner of the leg of the vanity. And I looked, and there's something there, and I reached over, and it's this ring. And I'm like, oh, this is so funny. And I'm like, okay, it disappears, and then it shows up again. And what is this about in a bathroom? Is it something about water, right? Maybe there was something, because it's in the bathroom, right? So copper pipes, right? There's something there. And anyways, but then I got the bigger message. I don't know if it was a meditation where I got it, but the bigger message was basically up-leveling. I got that the elements and where I was working, and the how we were able to work with our elements was being up-leveled, upgraded, right? Taking it to the next floor, right? So in the upper room, you'll say, right? There's a lot of language around that, but the metaphor wasn't lost on me that I needed to see it that way. I needed to find the ring in a different. So my team, has like probably up there going, okay, well, what can we do? What symbolism can we give her for this, right? And this ability to work with metals is now being activated into the next level, right? That sort of thing. Well, they did pretty good. It took a while. It took me a while to decode that, right? Um, and anyways, but I just found it again the other day because I did, even after I got that message, I still put it in my drawer afterwards. And I've kind of forgotten about it, but I pulled it out now and I'm realizing, oh, I've got to really be grateful for these gifts from Gaia. The clues, the messages, the metaphors, right? The symbolism. And then that woman, well, she's the one that kind of reminded me to find this and to go back in. So everything kind of comes in divine timing. You have to be, we always say you have to meet things where you're at, right? Things, there's a lot of higher vibrational, higher dimensional, way more enlightened and empowered beings out there, right? And people, right? They're going to say things though that we can't meet. And we're either going to dismiss it, we're going to write it off, we're just not going to be available for it, it's not going to resonate with us, whatever that is. But we have to trust our team, that's going to bring us the next the next part of our mission, right? The missed ions, right? To bring, because it's all coming back into our alignment, right? So if you go in one lifetime, you went way out over here, but you weren't able to come back into balance, right? So you have another lifetime, you might go way over here, and there's your missed ions, right? So now you can collapse it and bring it back to 0 point, right? So so that's what we're doing. So that's part of the game. That's why we're getting these little crumbs and clues and things that are being dropped in. So I thought I'd share that one because I'm wearing this just, for a little while until I take it off again. I get really bothered by a lot of things. That's the one thing about being an energy channel. I'm very aware. I used to be so aware when I had earrings on, that they're hanging and they're dangling and they're part of the movement of me. And I used to wear bangles too. Anyways, I'm very quick to come home and take things off. So anybody, if you're like me, and the reason I share that, it's not because I'm not trying to make this all about Deborah. I'm trying to see if you can identify with those sorts of things. If you are energy sensitive to fabrics, to smells, to somebody in your space. My son, this is interesting, and I don't know if he knows this, but I used to, when he was having breakfast at the island in one of our houses, and I can't remember what grade he was in, like 4 or 5 or something, and he would have had a shower, and he's sitting there, and he's got wet hair. I used to keep a hair blow dryer nearby, so that once in a while, because it was in the middle of the winter and I didn't want him going outside with wet hair. So I would, while he's eating his breakfast, we're racing to go to school, I would take out and I'd blow dry his hair. And he was just like, he was driven crazy by it because he didn't blow dry his hair, right? He's a boy. And just getting close to his arm hairs sometimes, right? He would just kind of go, Mom, stop it. He was so annoyed by me in his space. And I think he could feel, and he's, guys, this is not, we have a really great relationship. So it's not that, like, he's not, because it's not mama's boy thing or anything. There was nothing I wasn't overly helicoptery as a mother. I was very supportive. We were always supportive of the kids, but I now realize he's quite sensitive to energy, because now I get what he was talking about. Like, somebody gets too close to my, the hair on my, I can really feel it. Or even in bed laying next to my husband, I often put a pillow right between us, because if he's breathing in the night, his breath going over me actually keeps me awake. Like I'm aware of it. I'm registering it. It's activating or something. So again, there's the air piece, right? I work with the elements, so I am very sensitive to the air. And this friend who had me holding these copper poles, and in that same session, I was actually helping her activate her air dragon. And she was so grateful because she had all of her other dragons activated, but she hadn't activated that one. And that's how she experienced it, was the dragon. I don't experience them as dragons because I don't have that visual that she gets. But I know what she was going through, because I could feel the codes and how it moves through me, right? And you know, there's meditations that I have where I know I'm in that, people might call it kundalini, or whatever it is, but it's very serpent like, and it's not, this isn't saying, oh, I'm a reptilian. This is That's the consciousness that works with that energy within us, right? We have all the codes of all those systems, all the galactic realms, all the inner earth kingdoms. They're all within. There's nothing outside of us. So that's the thing, is not to get too um, we demonize things just because we don't understand it, right? We've got, the codes of the turtle are in us, the codes of the elephant, the codes of the dragonfly, right? There's a reason why we're able to work with symbolism for some things quite easily, right? Because we've given permission to those to be symbols for us, right? But we've also assigned negative, oh, my ice maker kicked on, negative permissions around anything symbolizing snake. And I think we've even done it to a degree with dragons, but yet why? Like, you look at in the Chinese, symbolism and all their ceremonies, and they've got parades with dragons, and so we just went a little too far. That's the pendulum swings, right? But it does that out of it's a fear, it's a contracted state, right? And when you fear what you don't know, you're literally closing doors energetically around you, because that energy, if you could just accept that it is a piece of you, and it's showing you in that way, that's how it's going to work with you, right? um yeah, you can master that part of your field, right? Because that energy is probably needed to, let's say it's your not just your hormone system, but probably your nervous system. So, and maybe by denying, you know, judging, let's say, a certain consciousness in other people, because they have a healthy, they manifest well with this consciousness, right? And so yeah, maybe that cripples your own systems, right? And your ability to work in the way they can. So that's the thing. That's why some people are successful in some areas and some aren't, right? We don't know what it is they've denied in a quantum entanglement kind of way, because it wasn't translated in a way we understood, right? And so, yeah, and I'm getting really off topic, but that, that does come, that shows up a lot with people. I still see a lot of people judging the reptilian consciousness, right? And you don't get a pass on that, right? You're not the only person on the planet that didn't come in with those codes, right? Or that your DNA that has all the codes of the whole universe, all the information is all in there. And just because you're maybe you're virtue signaling in that way, the spiritual virtue signaling, because people are doing it in the different arenas, but maybe that's your arena and how you're virtue signaling, and you don't want anything to do with that consciousness, right? So there's an ascended consciousness in that cosmic lineage as well. The Orion lineage has an ascension consciousness, right? Everyone does. You tap into the version of it. Again, you're going to meet it where you're at. And if you've decided it's not good, then you have to meet it there. And we don't know what the entrainment piece, what every action has an equal and opposite, what that does within you. So, so just know that you don't have to necessarily follow somebody who works with those, let's say the Orion emissaries or something. And, and I get it. I mean, if you're not comfortable there, use your discernment, right? And maybe one day when you know that you are the master of this and you're the avatar here, and that all those different emissaries of different galactic groups or whatever, or inner earth beings, whatever, however it is that you might have judged before, you'll get to that point where they all serve the light, right? The dark always serves the light. It just doesn't do it consciously, right? That's the difference, right? And so you can either be in the dark and feeding it or denying it light, right, which is fine, or be in your light and tap into it in the other side, because remember yin yang, right? Meet it in the light, right? So that's your choice. It's the conscious choice there. So anyways, yeah, there was no coding today. I thought maybe I'd be coding. I was looking for some answers around that myself. So anyways, so sending you lots of love and thank you for joining me. And yeah, and if you like it, I'll maybe share a few more anecdotes, and because there's lots of unexplained things have happened that are really fun. And the more we can give them, like, don't write them off. And because potential needs momentum to build until you can actually now work with that energy, right? So the energy of the alchemist, right? I have to know that that's in me, right? And then when I know it's in me, right, the bigger gifts can come. Oh, wouldn't that be a nice gift? That's a neat analogy there. That just worked. That one just dropped in too. So, anyways, I'm ready. Yeah. So thank you for hearing me out. Okay. Take care. Sending you love.